Hello, I am Tillman, the only guy on the internet that doesn't know everything, and welcome to the Anniversary Show, where I celebrate an album that was released 10, 20, or 30 years ago, and today we're talking about Lord Willin by Clipse. While I have your attention, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Don't forget to check out my other shows, Never Heard It, where I talk about classic albums that I never got around to listening to, and It's Been a While, where I talk about albums that I loved as a kid, but for whatever reason I stopped listening to them. Alright, let's talk about Lord Willin. Lord Willin was released on August 20th, 2002, so if you're watching this in 2022, it is 20 years old. Clipse released their single for their first album in 1999 titled The Funeral from their album Exclusive Raw Footage. When the single didn't chart, their record company Elektra shelved the album and they were eventually dropped from the label. Luckily for them, they were best friends with the biggest production team in hip-hop, the Neptunes, who signed them to their label Star Trek Entertainment through Arista in 2001. And that's how we got their debut album, Lord Willin, an album that most fans and critics believe is one of the best albums of the 2000s. But before we talk about that, let's see what else happened in August. Bobby Brown's Bobby was released on August 25th, 1992. Scarface the Fix was released on August 6, 2002. Queens of the Stone Age Songs for the Deaf was released on August 27, 2002, and 2 Chainz Based on a True Story was released on August 14, 2012. The aptly titled intro is an introduction in every sense of the word in that it lets you know exactly who the brothers Thornton are and exactly what they're about. The first line, "Players we ain't the same, I'm into cane and guns," just about sums it up. And when Big Brother Mal ends his verse with, "Make no mistake, malice is who you tune to, it's all in the name, trust I will wound you," I was in. If you don't enjoy the first 2 minutes of this album, you might as well turn back now because it was just going to be more of this. Case in point, Young Boy, which details what it was like for them growing up in the drug-infested streets of Virginia Beach. Malice makes several references to his grandmother selling drugs throughout this album, a reference that apparently they got in trouble for because he apologized for it on his next album, Hell Hath No Fury, for the song Mama I'm So Sorry. According to an interview with Complex, Clipse shot a video for Virginia after they shot the video for The Funeral, and apparently it got shelved along with the album because, as far as I can tell, this video is nowhere to be found. There's not much I can say about grinding that hasn't been said for the past 20 years. I always felt like this song was an instant success, but according to Push, they toured the country performing this song for drug dealers for $5K a pop for months before it became a hit. I just remember this video was playing on the TV while I was in another room doing something else, and I stopped dead in my tracks to find out who was rapping so vividly about selling drugs, something that I hadn't heard a rapper do since Reasonable Doubt, and that sounded nothing like this. I think Pharrell said it best when he said the world is about to feel something that they never felt before. L.A. Reid, who was the head of Arista at the time, told the guys that their next single should be Ma I Don't Love Her, and the guys wanted it to be Cot Damn. Reid said that if they put out Ma I Don't Love Her and it didn't hit, he would pay for another video. Ma I Don't Love Her didn't hit, Push wrote a cleaner verse, and that's how we got the remix. When was the last time is Pusha T's least favorite song on this album? And I can see why. It's clearly not a song that's in his wheelhouse. Having said that, this is the duo's highest charting single. I also want to note that the 2 poppiest songs on this album, Ma I Don't Love Her and When Was the Last Time, are the only 2 songs that have classic song structure, meaning they have 3 verses. Most hip-hop duos have 1 verse each and then they share the 3rd verse, but most Clipse songs that don't have a feature only have 2 verses. Speaking of verses, Ego has my favorite verse on the whole album. When Push says, "Yeah, you talk about this and that, got it mixed up like I'm all about rap, word is I'm loaded, you want a piece of that, I respond with 4 words, rat-tat-tat-tat. Now, rap about that, I carry the human heat box that make your heart beat stop. Some say Push is the coldest, money's my morals, other than that I'm soulless, refuse to wake up zeroless and oldest, carry that shit to blow your arm out your shoulders?" Jesus. Comedy Central featuring Fabulous is a bar fest that I have to admit had a few clothing references that I didn't get the entire 20 years I've been listening to this song. But before we get into that, I just want to say that even though this song doesn't have a hook, the Neptunes have so many subtle beat changes that keep this song from being stale, and that's why they're one of the greats. Fab mentions Woodridges, which is a clothing line that I've never heard of and never really thought to look up. From context, I always assumed he meant a winter coat, but I was never really sure. But the head scratcher for me has always been Pusha T's line, "Yves Saint Laurent knitted, shirts Bermuda, you would think it was Poogie if you overlooked Medusa." I never really got that line. The main thing was that I didn't know what Poogie was or what that had to do with Medusa. And my ignorance is kind of the point that Pusha's trying to make. The logo for Versace is the head of Medusa, and Poogie is another Italian clothes brand. So he's saying that you would think that his shorts were Poogie if you didn't notice the Medusa head, which would mean that they were in fact Versace. not Poochie. Mystery solved. Let's Talk About It is a song that was originally on Jermaine Dupri's sophomore album, Instructions. The biggest and only single from that album being Welcome to Atlanta featuring Ludacris, and that's probably the only reason why you would ever listen to the album. Gangsta Lean is an ode to weed smoke, which I find odd because neither the Neptunes or the Clipse seem like heavy weed smokers, but I could be wrong. The album proper ends with I'm Not You featuring Roscoe P. Coltrane, Styles P, and Jadakiss, and the album ends the same way it started, with them reinforcing their mission statement, "Players, we ain't the same, I'm into cane and guns." And because this is meant to be a celebration of this album, I'm not going to talk about the remixes. In 2002, hip-hop's biggest star was probably Eminem, with a close second being maybe Missy Elliott or Nelly. 2002 also saw the rise of underground hip-hop albums like Fantastic Damage, Personal Journals, and God Loves Ugly. But nothing invigorated the culture like the junkyard sounds of grinding. Clipse are probably more responsible for coke rap than anyone in recent memory. Keep in mind, this is still about 3 years away from the Dope Boys going crazy. Sure, plenty of people talked about selling coke, but most of those artists aren't God-level MCs. Clipse proved that you don't have to do everything. You just have to do one thing and do it really well. So happy anniversary to Lord Willin, and catch me next time where I will be talking about Nas The Lost Tapes. This is Free Tillman, the only guy on the internet that doesn't know everything. Peace.